Hello, and welcome to a whole new podcasting adventure, a new frontier in wrestling podcasting, if you will, as we review, discuss, and cover in depth everything the Frontier Wrestling Alliance ever put on television. I'm your host, Kieran, at one time the only full-time employee of the FWA, and although I did a lot of things for that company by myself, I couldn't do this alone. So joining me in this three-man booth is the first person who thought this sounded like a good idea, back in the Dundee Arms over 4 years ago, Eddie Sideburns. Eddie, how are you doing?
Oh, the boyhood dream has come true after all that discussion. And then Greg Burge being behind us and saying that, what?
Yeah.
To now being here to do it. I'm doing great. I'm excited and I'm ready to talk about one of the wackiest TV shows I think I've seen to begin with. So I've got 4 pages of notes. I'm ready to go here.
And rounding out this trio, the only other person who thinks this might be a laugh, someone I have reviewed an obscene amount of substandard British wrestling television with on his own show, is GCP's Andy Ogden. Andy, how are you?
Hello, Mr. Kieran. Happy to be with you once again to review another 2 years worth of my life I'll never get back.
Hopefully this will have more happy memories for you than UWA.
Oh, well, yeah. I'm sure there'll be a lack of Big Papa T, but many matches of Alex Shane, which we aim to discuss over the coming years.
We will see him quite a lot. So I think I need to kind of explain to people who don't know what the FWA actually was. The history of the FWA is messy. So as far as I understand it, modern, in quotes, FWA begins in February 1999 when Elisar Cabrera, who is a filmmaker and producer, becomes a part owner of what Mark Sloan had been promoting as the Fratton Wrestling Association in Portsmouth. The idea was Elisar kind of saw something in it and wanted to make it television ready and ready to be like a more national company. So he buys in, and Sloan is concentrating on the in-ring wrestling stuff, and Elisar is writing the stories, doing the PR, planning the expansion, all of that. For the first show they put on together, FWA1, Elisar brought a 2-camera TV crew and used the footage from that to make a promo tape. Fun story from that show, the main event was a battle royal that ended up in a no contest after some of the participants started shooting on each other.
And that will be the main event of 5 Star Wrestling 2025 Sideburns Edition.
Apparently it was an absolute clusterfuck. So he took then 3 cameras to No Surprises, which was the second show, and made a 1-hour pilot to shop around to TV stations. Apparently the promo from FWA1 made it onto some VHS comp that was doing the rounds about 20 years ago, but the originals were lost in a storage fire, which is a shame because I quite like to see the pilot.
It's probably in the same storage fire as episode 18 of UWA Wrestling.
Probably is. At one point, there was FWA South, FWA Midlands, an association with Extreme World Warfare, who I think were also in the Midlands, and Capital City Pro Wrestling in London, run by one Alexander Daniel Spilling, better known as Alex Shane. No, stop it. Eddie's doing Alex Shane poses. We're not having that.
Anytime when his theme song came out, it's like, just kept sounding show. I've got an entire comment here that just says show.
So Midlands and CCPW were more training schools than actual promotions, I think. And while EWW would carry on being their own thing, everything else simply got folded into the FWA, I think in 2001, maybe? So, to put all of this in a bit more context in the wider wrestling world, when this first aired, the stuff we're talking about today aired on, the first episode aired on Friday, June the 8th, 2001. When this first aired, WCW had only been dead for 2 months. ECW had only been out of business for 5 months, and Pro Wrestling Noah in Japan was less than a year old. There was no TNA, there was no Ring of Honor.
Was WWE still about by this point? Was the Australian mark?
2001, yeah, they were running shows. Yeah.
Okay. Just were they in the UK by this point?
I don't remember, because I do know there was a show announced for the UK that my mate and I wanted to get tickets for, simply because they had advertised Rey Mysterio Jr. for it. And
Okay.
around this time, he is my favourite wrestler. They had misspelled his name as Rey Mysterio, but he was still advertised. And then that show never happened.
I think they ended up doing a show at the MEN Arena, AO Arena, Nanex Arena, whatever it's called. And some of the pictures from that, I think it was like Disco Inferno in a builder's hat. And so
nothing will ever beat the title defense of the NWA World Heavyweight Championship by Jeff Jarrett against Nathan Jones in the SECC in Glasgow, Scotland.
Oh, Lord. A main event in any arena in the building, in the country, in the world. So around this time, British wrestling is much more sparse than it is today. The shows we're talking about today were all taped in May 2001. How many shows do you think Cage Match has a record of as happening in the entire UK in May 2001?
Go on, Eddie. What do you think?
God. Probably about in the entire. Okay. Probably about 3.
Okay, Andy?
Well, 2001, and I would say the internet's it's been around a couple of years. Ask Jeeves and Lycos were still going, not the wrestlers. And they were probably in primary school at the time.
Oh, man, Lycos Jim should have a character called Ask Jeeves who hangs around with him like a butler. And a guy who runs around just going, Yahoo!
I would probably say 11.
There were 5.
Oh.
And one of those was WWF Insurrection. So there were 4 actual British shows on Cage Match for May 2001. Contrast that with May 2023 when there were 89. That's how on its arse the British wrestling scene was at this time. So the FWA hook was really that they were doing something that most of British wrestling wasn't doing, which was episodic storyline driven shows with US, Indian, Japanese style action. Around this time, your other options were tribute shows with like Fake Kane versus, I don't know, the Big Mess Man, the Underfaker, all of that shit, or All Star. Neither of which had any of this type of action or each year of the company kind of seems to be its own era as it goes forward. So I think we'll talk about those as we get to them. With that out of the way, I want to ask both of you, and I will start with Andy. What is your FWA fandom? Like, what is your link to the company? Did you ever go to any of the shows?
I never went to any FWA shows.
Kick him off the call. He's not allowed. No, sorry, veterans only.
No, my first taste of like independent wrestling was, well, you can say like ROH Unified, but mainly seeing British acts was going into like the Nowhere Dragon Gate UK era,
right?
And starting off at PCW, Blood, Sweat and Beers in about 2011. Wow.
A late comer.
But with FWA, I think my gateway maybe. I think quite a lot of people will say the Talk Sports show with Alex Shane.
Sure.
With him on, I think Elizar Cabrera were on there.
Yeah.
You'd find out about Nikita. It would have been the Revival show, what they showed for an hour on Bravo. Remember me and my dad sitting down and watching that hour's highlight show, and him enjoying the very much cut down version of Johnny and Jody in a match. But I think it was more from that, and then getting tapes from the wrestling shop in Manchester from Mike Huff, who used to run HXC Wrestling in Manchester.
I remember that.
A year or two. I think they got as big as the Ritz of all places, but he used to sell all like the VHSs of FWA and any independent promotion like ROH and TNA. But no, that was my only time I'd really watch FWA. Some of the the bigger shows when I could get the tapes in, but I wouldn't say I was a avid watcher.
Not a diehard at the time.
No.
And how about you, Eddie?
So I'm young, stupidly young. So I would never have been allowed as a child of that age to go down to see FWA. My first ever introduction to British wrestling was I went to go see, and quite funnily on a nice topic that's going around at the moment, 1PW, the 4th anniversary. So was the first show that my dad ever took me to see at the Donny Dome. But my kind of FWA fandom was probably from watching the Wrestling Channel when it was on. And kind of then hearing stuff as I kind of grew back into enjoying British wrestling and stuff like that. And then just hearing stuff and then watching videos and then, seeing all the Alex Shane stuff and then hearing all the stories on UKFF about Alex Shane and stuff like that. And then just kind of like going, I'm really curious as to like, because when you look at the stuff that they did, and then I watched back a while ago, I watched back some of their YouTube stuff, and they were doing like FWA shows at like comic conventions and stuff like that, and it's interesting because without it, without bringing in the style and doing the stuff that they did, the groundwork for the British wrestling scene that we see right now wouldn't be there, I would say. Because they brought in talent. Someone else could have brought in that talent, yes, absolutely, but the way they brought them in, they did the matches they did and the stuff they did, it is kind of a favor of the way the scene is right now. I'm just very interested to see how this all goes to shit.
Yeah. Yeah, if someone was coming over here, say, for All-Star, like, they would be on a tour for 3 months or whatever. If someone was coming in for the FWA, it's because you were going to get to see them fight Doug Williams in the main event on the 30th and you had to be there. Like, it was a marquee thing rather than an ongoing thing.
Yeah, and I think now, if you look at it, you see these wrestlers come to the UK, and they are kind of the promoters are all doing a share of them in essence, because they're all paying for the flights to come together. Whereas I'm assuming with FWA, it was kind of like an exclusivity in essence.
Well, no, it wasn't.
Not always. Oh,
no,
okay.
That's how this kind of started.
Right. Okay.
Was like, Alex would call up all the promoters around the country and say, I'm bringing in the blue meanie. You've got a show the night before ours. Do you want him? We'll split the airfare.
Oh, well, fair enough. That's great carny work then, absolutely.
And probably give him a booking fee.
But yeah, like I said, those matches and stuff like that, and the people that he had, obviously, like, if you knew someone was coming in, they were going to face Doug Williams and stuff like that.
Yeah. My fandom, I think we need to get into mine as it becomes more relevant later on. But the short version is I went to a couple of shows in 2002, and to be honest, they were not good. But something drew me back. I think it was because it was 2002. As I said, ECW had only died the previous year. I was an ECW fan, and like, this was UK ECW. This was as close as it got, and it was 15 miles from my front door. I then went to something they called Star Search, which was for anyone who wanted to work in wrestling as anything other than a wrestler.
Very much like a Pop Idol or something.
Yeah, Pop Idol, if you wanted to set up the microphone stands for the tour.
I can just imagine now, like, Kieran doing the audition process and then being interviewed by someone in the back after going, how do you find that?
What? A sob story about how my dad's not doing well and I want to make it as a cameraman for my dad.
You're through to the next round, and then All This Time by Michelle McManus just starts blasting really loudly.
Alex Shane there as Pete Waterman. You can just imagine it, can't you?
I think he's a bit more Simon Cowell.
Oh, more Cowell, definitely,
yeah.
I'd say.
So at the time, I fancied trying it as a referee. And I'm getting a thumbs up from former referee Eddie Sideburns here.
Yeah.
At 6'2", Alex Shane looked me up and down and went, well, you'll only be reffing my matches because you're taller than the rest of our roster. What else can you do? And at that point, like, I was like making films and doing video stuff, and ended up as a camera operator on, I think, almost all of the rest of the 2002 shows, and then almost all of the 2003 shows. I'm trying to remember. Yeah, I don't know why I have this stat. They did 18 shows in 2003, and I think I worked 15 of them. And then 2004, they got the deal with the wrestling channel, and I made that TV show, which we'll get into when we cover it in approximately 1 year. And let me tell you now, don't hold back, boys, when we get to that stuff. I know it sucks. I know where I fucked up. And I want you to go in with both feet if necessary. Criticize it as if it was an episode of Rampage.
Will do.
Andy Ogden going in like Cantona, Crystal Palace fan.
He'll have the big special shoes on, the start the stomp shoes, and he's to go right in.
I will. Extra filing on them heels that day.
I'll be the baby face in that, and Andy can be the heel at that point. I'll be like, well, I can get around with it.
So, what we're starting out with here, after 15 minutes of preamble and setup, is this TV show was on something called MyTV Portsmouth.
I was thinking MyTV. There was a MyTV that was it ICW or
My Channel.
My Channel, right?
Yeah, and they got kicked off because My Channel aired an episode of ICW. Now, bear in mind, this was ICW before the WWE kind of neutered down rubbish. And it was aired on a Sunday about 6:45 in the morning or something like that. And someone obviously put in a complaint. Then they did the whole, we got kicked off on My Channel. Oh.
And I think as well another promotion, UKW, run in Batley in West Yorkshire. They was also on that channel as well.
Yeah.
Some absolute terrible wrestling, but their performance centre in Batley, it's a thing to behold. It's like TV screens everywhere. It just looks like this is a good little setup for a trainee school.
Incredible.
Not for a wrestling show on TV on Sky.
No, I wouldn't think so.
So MyTV was sort of like a mini network of very local TV stations. So as far as I'm aware,
so like a Portsmouth version of Men and Motors for the Granada region.
No, not even that. Like, it's a proper local TV channel for the town. So like
the way that STV in essence is the region for Scotland, but then if there was like a small one that was based in Glasgow.
But smaller than that. Imagine if there was one based in Dundee or
Christ.
I know of one in Southampton and one in Oxford as well, but the one in Portsmouth served an area of just 7 square miles. It was a tiny channel. However, this channel ran 24/7, even had some live shows. I found a little video about it on YouTube. They had a football show. I think they had 2 football shows. It had its own version of Loose Women called Chatterbox. They had programs about the history of the area. They had a regular amateur boxing show. It had its own kids show. It had its own soap opera and news.
Chalk Hill Lives.
And it had Frontier Wrestling. Frontier Wrestling was actually one of the first shows. Episode 1 airs just 2 days after the channel launches. However, they only had a half-hour slot, and it was at 11:30 p.m. on Friday.
That's when pissheads are getting in for the pub, isn't it?
I found a video, and it shows some of the first moments of the launch, like them going live. And immediately, the first thing that happens is the director hits the wrong button and cuts away from the presenter who is talking to a baffled-looking newsreader, and then immediately cuts back again. Perfect. There is also a fabulous line from one of the newsreaders, which is, "All the buses, ferries, and hovercraft are all running well, as far as we know." It looked cheap as hell, but I was thinking, at that time, I would have loved to have worked somewhere like this. Like where I lived, so I lived in Hertfordshire, and we didn't have anything like this. This was available over analog terrestrial TV. If you had an aerial in Portsmouth, you could just get this. We didn't have this until cable came along, and though I did do a little bit for one channel, it was nothing like this. It was even smaller than this channel. Crazy. But we'll round it out. They rebranded to Portsmouth TV in 2002, apparently because people were calling them MyTV and mishearing them as ITV and then getting very confused when the programs were so cheap. And
Where's
then they
Emmerdale?
They did have a hookup with ITV News for a while. Like they would just like air a block of ITV News for whatever reason, I guess, because they were paying money. And they went into administration, unfortunately, in March 2004.
Apparently, even had his own teletext service, which I think is quite possibly brilliant.
Yeah.
The Portsmouth version of Bamboozle turning up.
I mean, I can imagine the local news would have been, there has been a mugging on the high street. Prices have gone up in the clothing shop. And Jimmy, your mum says you need to be home by 6 or your dinner's going in the dog. Like, it's that small an area.
Oh, it says here. So I've got it here just quickly because, it says Fratton, 61-year-old robbed. Accident, elderly man struck by car. Market expansion put on ice. And then there's one that just says turkey stolen, birds contaminated. Then it gives you the weather report for what it's going to be like.
So one of the news items is someone getting their Christmas dinner nicked.
Yeah.
For any overseas listeners who might be listening to this, Portsmouth is not a huge town on the south coast of the United Kingdom, but it's where Mark Sloan, founder of the FWA, is from. So that is why it is on Portsmouth television. Should we actually talk about some wrestling?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
So, episode 1 is June the 8th, 2001. The first 6 episodes were all taped on May the 19th, 2001 in Porchester Community Centre in Portsmouth. There were 19 matches taped on that show.
Ooh, TNA.
And they also, as well as the 6 episodes of TV, they also appear to have got a 2-hour commercial tape out of that show that contains some matches that were not shown on these TVs. They taped so much. We are going to be covering, for the foreseeable, 4 TV episodes per podcast. If you think that sounds like a lot, the longest episode is 27 minutes. They did 30 TV episodes and then a 1-hour wrap-up special at the very end, which we will get to in due time. The opening titles are lots of very red clips of flips, power bombs, dives, clotheslines, a bloke getting hit in the head with a bin, all shot on the camcorders of 2001 in various leisure centres around the South Coast.
On my notes here, Kieran, I put it's very much filmed in high contrast.
I think
To 100.
I hope this was a post-production effect, because if the white balance was off at all of these shows this badly, I would never hire that cameraman again.
I love the intro of all the spots, Alex Shane, all the spots, the words of the name of the company. So it's like Frontier Blast, then from Wrestling Blast, then Alliance Blast, and it just keeps flashing on and off.
Yeah,
it's just wild, and the coloring of the entire show, like, looks like a lot of these people have jaundice at certain points.
Yeah, let's just say that camera and editing technology has come along a lot in the last 22 years. Mm-hmm. I was going to say the quality of the cameramen has as well, but that's not always true.
When did high definition come in?
I don't know. I mean, I'm having a look here, and it says I think HD began in kind of late 2005. I'd say.
Yeah, there've been kind of like experiments going on with it for years and years and years, but it didn't. It was long after this. Like, the stuff I produced wasn't HD, and then the stuff I then produced again when I did more wrestling television was also not HD.
Yeah.
So, your commentator, the voice of the Frontier Wrestling Alliance, is one Mark Priest. I'm going to destroy kayfabe here, better known these days as Alan Boone.
Fuck! No, that's why I didn't like it. My God.
Former presenter of Love the Graps, good old Alan.
Oh, he gave me a headache the entire time.
Hey, we're going to be very split here, Eddie. I'm on the good side of Al.
That's fine, but fuck me, it was just annoying so many times. There's so many things I've picked up where I was just like, that commentator's annoying the shit out of me here.
Eddie, have you ever sat through UWA Wrestling Rampage?
No, but I'd happily do it if you want. Fuck, just not. And then also, I can hear so when I'm hearing the commentary and I'm hearing this guy, and then underneath it, I'm like, hold on a second here. I can hear someone else doing commentary just underneath it.
Yeah.
Yes.
So we will get to that. The host
Ross Gordon
is Ross Gordon. Yeah. Real name Ross Hutchinson. Andy and I have talked about him because he was involved with UWA when we discussed that show. He was a long time kind of hardcore fan. He was a newsletter writer. I knew him in the mid-90s. He looked the same age here as he did in the mid-90s, in a suit he had borrowed off Pick the Largest Wrestler on the Show, I think.
You were like, I sent a picture of it to Arn, and I was like, who did this guy get this suit from?
Because he is all of like 5'5", and he is drowning in this fucking thing.
Probably Alex Shane's.
Oh, when Shane comes out, it's like, Jesus.
I think he went into Burton's and went, give me 2 suits, but sew them together.
Hey, that would have been prime Burton's era.
It probably would.
Our Jeff was like, but he getting all his stuff from Burton's at the time in like the late 90s, early 2000s, and maybe stolen from either, which was the shit in Rochdale.
So in terms of TV production, they immediately marked their card with me by not cutting to the in-ring camera that Ross is actually talking directly into. So all of this is shown from the hard cam. Ross immediately calls it the Frontier Wrestling Association, and he's out of sync. He says the show is to run for 13 weeks, which is interesting because they must have got an extension at some point if we're going to be talking about 30 episodes. He also says we're going to see some of the best British wrestlers we've ever seen. This is the 21st century. This is 2001. And then he gets it right and says this is the Frontier Wrestling Alliance.
Hey.
They then cut to a second camera that is not the one in the ring he is talking to, apparently being manned by a drunk on the deck of a ship in a storm. This bloke was documenting the Titanic going down, I think.
There's someone at the top of the Titantron watching this looking so bored.
I think Titantron is giving it a bit too much weight. It's
big weight
balcony.
to it.
yeah.
The balcony.
So this is a small community centre. They appear to have packed it though.
Oh yeah.
And it also seems to have 2 balconies for a community centre, which is weird. There's one that the hard cam is on, and then there is another one that is above what is being used as the entranceway. Yeah, and you can occasionally see some figures like watching from up there.
You can imagine you can imagine the promoter in the background. Use the other one. Use the fucking other one.
If you're one of the people, and I know they're out there, who likes to take a shot whenever I complain about white balance on a show, get the tipple of your choice out and have your first. Because we are 2 different colour temperatures. The hook for the first series of shows is going to be the tournament for the vacant FWA British Heavyweight title. Ross Gordon runs down the brackets. And lads, we need to talk about these Photoshop 1.0 match graphics.
I was going to say Microsoft Paint does a great job back in them days, doesn't it?
Yeah.
Jack Xavier making himself look so small in the graphic compared to big man Alex Shane.
yeah. So that's the first match, Jack Xavier versus Alex Shane. Shane is using the same single professional photo he had taken and would continue to use until at least 2005 when he started growing a beard.
Was it the one where he had his finger over his stubble?
Yes, yeah, that's the one. Yeah. Jack Xavier's was apparently taken by his mum on whatever camera the family owned, and then it looks like he was cut out using actual scissors to be stuck on this graphic. Solid Gold Scott Parker versus Guy Thunder. Again, Parker seems to have had a pro pick done. Mr. Thunder has not. Paul Travell versus Scotty Rock. Travell's picture is so dark you can hardly make out that he has a face, let alone who it is. And Scotty Rock, not Scotty Rourke, as is on the scene now. I didn't know they were two separate people until about a year ago. Scotty Rock looks like sad CAW number 6 from something like SmackDown Here Comes the Pain on PlayStation 2. And our final quarterfinal will be Jodie Fleisch versus Doug Williams.
Doug looks so big in this compared to
It's
Jodie.
taken as such a weird... So the shadow on his face makes him look like he's rocking like the same sideburns as Jordan Breaks. But it's been taken at such an angle that he looks really fat with a tiny head. Also, Jodie's name is spelt Fleisch instead of Fleisch, and then they cut to a sign that calls him Jodie Flash, just to add to confusion.
Well, it was Jodie Flash in UWA, wasn't it?
Yeah, he was. I think this was the first place he was actually using his given name. His real name is Jerome Fleisch.
Right.
And I think this was the first place he was actually using his real name. I don't know if he was Jodie Fleisch in Hammerlock. But yeah, he was. Jodie Flash is actually a better name, I think. Yeah. It's a better name than Jodie German Meat, isn't it?
It's a better wrestling name, isn't it?
It's, yeah. Anyway, I'm sorry, Jodie. Love you. For the British wrestling scene of 2001, that's a pretty solid lineup for a tournament, I think, in terms of like people who can actually wrestle.
Especially when you got the main event, Jodie versus Doug, it's like, yeah, the workers.
Yeah. I think had I been close enough and known it existed, that might have sold me a ticket. The background to all these match graphics appears to be a shot of a pretty packed-looking Broxbourne Civic Hall, a venue we will be talking about a lot in later episodes. I did notice they had not bothered removing the giant head logo on somebody's backpack at the bottom of that photo. So inadvertent advertising for head backpacks. The hard cam goes wildly out of focus as it crash zooms onto Gordon's face and Alex Shane's music starts playing. What a surprise that he is the first man out on this show.
Show.
Yep.
Show.
Our intrepid in-ring cameraman, who was, we're going to be keeping track of this, Andy. This was Kenny McBride, commentator of UWA on this camera.
All right.
Yeah. Hops out the ring and finally has his shot cut to as Alex Shane emerges with 4 bodyguards and 4 women. The shot, however, is so badly framed that of the 6'6" Shane, all you can see is his head.
You know what, with Alex Shane, he loved people in leather.
I've put down that I've put down the men from Can't Pay We'll Take It Away have arrived with some ladies, and then show Alex Shane is here.
Is what I was going to ask Kieran, is one of them bodyguards sticks?
Yes. So Alex Shane, it was never the same 4 people as Alex Shane's bodyguards. They would rotate throughout the years. And we will be covering a lot of them. But yes, one of them is a very young Paul Sticks Grint.
Right.
So Alex does his full Triple H entrance in a black vest and gold shorts. He has AS knee pads and AS on one leg. Unfortunately, it is the same leg as the S knee pad, so his leg in giant capital letters just reads ass.
How intentional is that, Kieran? Oh my word.
It can't be. Why would you do that? One thing
I will point out, Kieran, as
Yes.
well, when they did filming coming into the ring, they took a shot of him from the back.
That's exactly what I was going to say.
And you know what? He looked like Lars Sullivan from NXT.
Yeah, it's this actual really nice shot of him. It's him from the back, but he's backlit by the spotlight. So it's his silhouette slowly raising his arms through the spotlight rays. Looks really good. That's the first good shot of the show. It's really nice.
Yeah, I've got down here, you know, the cuts in the front and then to the back. It works so well.
Yeah. So as he would do a lot as a heel, he yells at people to shut up, tells us his name, calls the tournament a formality because he's the only one in it who should be champion. He tells FWA Commissioner Victoria de Montfort to find him an opponent to beat up now, and he says he'll get to the finals of this tournament, and you'll never guess what? There are 2 things that everyone else can do about it. See title of show.
Nothing like it.
Indeed.
Nothing like it.
Cut to an office with lots of background noise and a lady in a tiny skirt. This is Victoria de Montfort, or as it is spelled on screen, Victoria Demonfort, as they have left the
I've
T
put that
out
down.
of the middle.
I put that down. I've called her. I'm sorry. I forgot there was a Montfort. I've just called her Demonfort the
So
entire
have I.
time in my notes.
So have I. So she is shuffling her papers with the belt on the desk. An unnamed man in an FWA t-shirt, who is actually Haid Vanson, who will be an FWA wrestler. Yeah. He arrives to tell her what's happening in the ring, and she says, fine, get Jack Xavier to the ring, which seems a bit unfair on Xavier. Surely this works better if it's Xavier coming into the office saying, if Shane's ready, he's ready. Back in the community centre, Xavier's music hits. Sadly, not his famous Jack Xavier, Our Saviour track. That would come later. And he comes out, and he looks like shit.
Well, I did put Kieran. He looks like he's come straight from a Papa Roach gig.
He does.
Did he cut your life to pieces as well?
Yeah.
Was it his last resort? Who knows?
Unlike Darby Allin, he had to leave his skateboard at the front door.
I like the fan cam thing they did. That was quite decent, I thought.
Would you like a bit of tech talk?
Okay,
So,
fire away.
when I was making FWA TV, there was not such a thing as HD, but cameras had things in them called CCDs, Charged Coupled Device, which is the chip that powers the sensor, if you like, that captures the picture. And these days, they don't exist anymore. They're outdated technology. Everything uses what's called a CMOS sensor. Oh, there's going to be people fapping themselves to death over this camera talk. But in my day, there were CCDs, and your consumer camcorder at home had one CCD in it. Professional cameras had 3 CCD. And if you wanted to get stuff on TV, you had to shoot with 3 CCD cameras. And I got this from LSR Cabrera himself. Yeah, 2 out of our 3 cameras were actual TV cameras, and we filled in with my camcorder, which was only a single CCD camera. So we got around it by calling it fan cam to excuse the bad quality and to excuse the shitty camera shots it would get. We just put it in the hands of anybody. This was nicked from ECW television. They would do this as well. Yeah.
That's quality.
Yeah.
That's
so there we go. End of tech talk.
But some, like with ECW, they'd actually release tapes, wouldn't they? Of like, this is just like a fan cam.
Because it mattered much less on VHS. Like, nobody's got a 55-inch 4K TV in their corner in this time. Big TVs in this era are 21, 22 inches. They're square and they're CRT.
I think still in that era, Kieran, my dad had a bloody Ferguson TV.
In a wood box.
In a wood box.
You've showed me before that weird switch you've got in the corner of your room for switching between like the community cable or satellite, haven't you?
Yeah,
weird.
Still there on the wall.
Never seen anything like that in my life till you sent that to me. So, we were moaning about Jack Xavier, and you're right. Yeah, he's just come from Papa Roach. He's in a black t-shirt, black shorts, black trainers, looking scared of all the people in the aisle. He was never one for good gear, but this is just man off the street.
The commentator talks about him because you were saying he was scared. The commentator goes on to talk about a story about Xavier looking like a rabbit caught in the headlights, and then goes on to tell people that he was behind the car and he killed the rabbit.
He ran over a rabbit, yeah. So Haid Vanson has teleported from the office into the ring, and he's the referee for this match in his black trousers and FWA shirt. We don't have stripy ref shirts yet. Alex Shane has the mic again, and he is appalled if this is the best the FWA can offer, and gives him the count of 10 to leave the ring. I saw him do this routine a lot over the years. He would always call him Jack X Xavier as well. He was the only person in the company who couldn't say Xavier. So Jack gets to the ropes, thinks about it, and then comes back to the middle of the ring. And finally, after 40 minutes of recording, we are into our first match. Yeah, so what do we reckon to this? Eddie, what you got?
I gave it 2 stars. Decent slap. So my review is decent slaps, arm drag, Shane heat. This commentator is honestly too much overkill. The enziguri that Jack Xavier does is beautiful. It's one of the best enziguris I've seen in a while. The Shane Station is awful.
Fucking hell, so he was told a lot that he was too big to be doing stuff like that.
Yeah.
And he would keep doing it for far too long. Like, he is too big and too awkward to do it well. I don't recall it ever looking good.
No, because the way I think they were trying to do it, the way it went on the camera it just didn't work. It looked like, I don't know what you're trying to do here.
Yeah.
And it just doesn't work. But it was decent for what it was. It was nothing special.
Yeah.
Yeah, the choke bomb was great. Xavier gets enough height on it.
Yeah. Yep. And at the end, Jack manages to duck a clothesline and a back elbow, runs into Alex Shane's one-night stand finisher, which is, if you've never seen it, it's the Island Driver. It's a fireman's carry into a Michinoku driver that at least 500 people were using as their finisher around this time. Andy, do you have anything to add?
Not much, really. Jack Xavier, he'd sort of become like the proper undercard guy for the FWA ones. He's very much their Mikey Whipwreck.
That's exactly who he was kind of modelled on, yeah. I think Alex, he was from FWA Midlands, and I think Alex kind of had a bit of hand in his training as well. Like, Alex liked him a lot, and they would do a lot of like little programs over the years. But
it sort of works that character in like promotions like the underdog baby face and seeing him grow and
he's someone
and what have you.
He is the guy who looks like everybody in the audience.
Yeah, and it would have been around that era, like the new metal era.
Exactly that, yeah.
All that.
Yeah. We then cut to Adam South uncharismatically interviewing the equally uncharismatic Guy Thunder in a noisy room backstage.
I was thinking like the interviewer looked like a character from Randall and Hopkirk Deceased. in his ill-fitting suit.
Andy, did you recognise Guy Thunder?
Guy Thunder? Was that Paul Sloan?
No. It was Leon Murphy from the UWA.
Leon Murphy, bloody hell.
Yeah.
I knew it was an egg.
Yeah.
Alex Shane's tag partner, weren't it, on UWA Wrestling Rampage?
Yes, indeed. He is also a heel. He also calls the tournament a formality and says, when thunder strikes, lame jab, fake out at the camera, you don't get up again. And if that little Jezebel angel sticks her face in my business, something off camera goes ding, she could expect to get it slapped right back out again. This was terrible.
I've put down the interviewer sounds and looks like a game show host, and I've put up when Thunder strikes, you don't get up again, because I thought that was just wonderful.
There's an even better quote about Thunder later, which had me pulling my hair out.
Did he end up staying in wrestling? Or?
I don't know, to be honest. I can't remember why they got rid of him.
My favourite ref's about to appear in a minute. I'm very excited about this.
So, this all leads into match number 2, which is Guy Thunder versus Solid Gold Scott Parker. This is another of the tournament quarterfinals. I am trying to remember who else would use Guy Thunder's music in the future. It might have been any of the imports who came over and didn't bring their CD with them.
Well, one of the great quotes for Scott Parker here, Kieran, is
yes.
All the ladies love Milk Tray and also love Scott Parker.
Yes. Yeah, he's kind of pushed as like a heartthrob baby face, isn't he?
Yeah, they're very much putting, and then I've put down here underneath versus who wants to take a walk in the park with Angel, and I'm just like trying to remember what that was mentioned again.
We've mentioned Angel a couple of times. She is Scott Parker's valet. Guy Thunder squares up to her during his entrance, prompting Parker to fly out of the ring and beat the shit out of him. As you kind of mentioned earlier on, Eddie, we can also hear Ross Gordon doing live commentary underneath Priest.
Yeah.
So it's very distracting. So the story I heard was Priest and Gordon did the commentary live, but Gordon had to leave to go and do something we will talk about later. And because he lived in Scotland, it was much easier just to get Boone back to re-record the whole lot by himself. And because it was cheap, you could just hear them on the hard cam initially. Yeah.
Yeah, because it was over the time I was just like, okay, what's going on here? Yeah.
I think it's episode 3 where it really annoyed me because they have other people in doing comms with Priest.
Yeah.
And you can still hear Priest and Gordon underneath the commentary track. It's so distracting.
I was thinking that they were doing it like, I mean, I went to a show, one of these like live American wrestling in Middleton, Manchester, and you got the ring announcer doing like, "Come on, the baby face," and what have you.
It's the All-Star way. It's the All-Star way where you have like the things commenting.
I have only been to one All-Star show in my life, and the main event was a battle royal. One of the people who appears on this show was dressed as Spider-Man under the name of Spider Mask on the poster, but very much Spider-Man in the building. There were a whole bunch of heels in the battle royal, and Spider-Man and and Dean Allmark in there as the baby faces. The ring announcer's going, "Come on, kids, Dean, just as he gets hurled over the top rope, over her head, and thuds on the floor. Dean, oh, Spider-Man.
Oh, yeah, that's no surprise. But Hayden Vance is no longer the referee here. Let's talk about that.
Oh, about who's your favourite referee then?
By God, it's Steve Linsky.
Wow.
Another UWA alumnus is here. Yeah, so far we have had Ross Gordon, Kenny McBride, Alex Shane, Guy Thunder, and Steve Linsky as former UWA talents.
Pulling us
on this
around
show.
like a bad smell, Kieran.
Oh, he is the putrid stench of British wrestling.
Just don't get him to deliver your wrestling ring.
Yeah. So, do you have any fascinating insight on this one, Andy?
One of the best maneuvers of this match is the spear through the ropes by Guy Thunder, the Thunder Strike.
Thunder Strike!
I mean, Big E Langston must have been studying them Guy Thunder.
That's what I was thinking. Yeah.
When he was doing the spear.
It's a very silly move that Big E he would almost kill himself doing that on every pay-per-view. But Guy Thunder has less space to do it in here and somehow doesn't kill anybody doing it. He's got like 3 feet.
I think one thing we haven't mentioned already is that it's that ring again, isn't it? It the Mark Sloan ring?
Yeah, it's the Mark Sloan ring. So I don't know if they were there at the time, but when I would go to the FWA Academy, not as a trainee, I hasten to point out, it was on the same industrial estate as like a metalworkers, and he went to them and went, "Can you build me a ring?" So Sloan's rings were built differently to any other ring I ever put together in my time in wrestling. They were heavy as fuck. Particularly the ring posts. They filled the ring posts with concrete so they wouldn't bend, which meant it needed like 3 people to carry them in. Yeah. But so he had some 14-foot rings and he had some 16-foot rings, neither of which are particularly big. It was always terrible when we showed up to shoot TV and they had put the 14-foot ring in the back of the van instead of the 16-foot. I
was just thinking then, Kieran, like when you were saying like they were filled with concrete, thank God Trent Seven were around then doing his bloody chop spots.
Thank God he isn't filled with concrete. He might be, we don't know. What were we going to say about the ring? Yeah, this is so you and I have already seen this ring on UWA Wrestling Rampage. We will see this family of rings throughout the entire run of this podcast. So get ready for 2 years of this ring.
One thing I will say about Guy Thunder is he's so improved from being Leon Murphy, hasn't he?
Yes, however, he is still not good.
He's dangerous.
Later on, very much so. There are some things he can do well. So he's got quite a nice power bomb. He's got quite a nice frog splash. But like he can't do anything in between those things.
The press slam.
Yeah, he can do that. So yeah, he hits like 3 or 4 pretty nice looking moves in a row. Completely fucks a slingshot plunger. And then inside, Parker gets they do a whole series of reversals that are called what I called the Hurricane Rana, where I don't think either of Parker's legs were anywhere near Guy Thunder's head. Thunder turns a gut wrench powerbomb into a neck breaker, but gets caught in the golden arrow, which is quite a nice looking falcon arrow for the pin.
And nobody kicks out of the deal.
No,
Nobody
apparently
kicks
not.
out of the deal.
they did most of the big moves pretty well, but like there's nothing in the way of connective tissue. So it's actually pretty fair for a 2001 TV match. Like, you're not seeing an awful lot better than this on TV at this time, to be honest. Unless
I think one of my last lines is a decent 5-minute match of moves with a Z.
And there's going to be a lot of those moves matches because the FWA was a moves promotion, and they were having to do 4 to 7 minute matches because they had to fit 2 of them on a 20-minute TV show every week.
Yeah,
I've kind of put here, is Guy Thunder a hybrid of Ken Shamrock and Goldberg? Because that's the way he kind of comes across here. Schamberg, yeah. I gave this in terms of like the ratings I'm giving this is in terms of TV and obviously what it's doing. It was a decent 3, I thought. The power bomb into the Hurricane Rana almost killed one of them. They almost landed right on their head. But yeah, I thought it was quite decent for a match. Not the best match I've seen of the 4, but
we have to kind of frame this in terms of the time. I think like we are spoiled for television wrestling in 2023. Very much not so in this era of 2001. So to round out episode 1, as Parker is celebrating, Doug Williams comes out of the crowd, rushes the ring, batters him with a piece of the lighting truss, which would get used as a weapon many, many times over the years of the FWA. It would actually hurt like hell if you got hit with it because it is metal. However, they were very light, those pieces of metal, so easy to swing. Priest says Williams is attacking Parker because he knows he'll have to face him in the tournament just seconds after he told us that Parker's next opponent is Alex Shane.
Mark Priest saying good night the way he did just made me like, what?
We cut to a sparse credits list, which is a Frontier production in association with Elazar Cabrera Productions and a credit for Rusty Music, who did all the theme music. This list, I noticed, would grow over the next 3 weeks quite significantly. So, June 15th, episode number 2, we get a recap of last week's show with a finish and the anarchist attack. Priest says Parker's ribs are broken in 6 places, which I think is far too many at this level of professional wrestling. You can get away with that bullshit in WWE, but here, like...
I mean, how many do you have? Like, half of these ribs are gone? He'd be dead.
6 different places
yes.
from the recap.
Yeah. His future in the tournament is in doubt, apparently. Entering the ring, also a UWA alumnus, Mo Chatra. Former Power Slam writer Mo Chatra is here, and Priest is beside himself when his name graphic comes up as Capo Khan. Yes. So Capo Chatra claims to be a sports entertainment genius and says there's a couple of jabronis called Mark Sloan and James Teague. Yep. Priest, quote unquote, corrects him to Tig, which is also incorrect. It's just Ty. He wants them to come out and associate themselves with him, and he'll propel them to the top of the industry tonight. Really, in a community centre in Portsmouth. And British wrestling will soon see Sloan and Teague at the top. He says they'll be called The Establishment, and the 3 of them are going to the top.
Have you seen how the name was spelled as well? EST, Establishment.
Yeah.
That's where Bianca Belair got a gimmick from.
But I wonder what the E was for, because the S and the T could be Sloan and Ty, but it's like Mo Chatra and
name's Capo Khan.
Yeah, the Establishment.
I've put down here that James Ty has the Lance Storm look down.
He very much
does.
Of gear
and stuff.
Yes.
Mark Sloan looks like Robbie Jackson from EastEnders.
Is Capo Khan supposed to be shit? Why would he not be wanting to recruit winners rather than 2 men he calls jabronis? Why are they not 2 great talents who haven't been getting a fair shake in the FWA, even if they're going to be heels? Sloan's gear is the same here as it would be when I last saw him wrestle in 2009. And in fact, I can't find any record of him wrestling past the end of 2009.
He probably wore that same gear when he were promoting Dragon Gate.
What, under his jeans and t-shirt?
Under his...
Yeah.
Listen, you never know. You never know when you need
Always
to.
bring your gear. James's would get better. Here come the tag team champions, the New Breed, Ash and Curve, also former UWA. They were Joe Black and Phil Blend.
Phil Blend, yeah, what a great name.
Was it Joe Black? Joe Young. He was Joe Young, not Joe Black. It was Mighty Joe Young, not Meet Joe Black.
Phil Blend was a regular character on UWA, weren't he?
Yeah, they were proper jobbers. Priest says they've been the tag champions since the belts were introduced 18 months ago. This is true. They won a one-night 4-team tournament over Guy Thunder and Alex Shane, Mark Sloan and Paul Travell, and Scotty Rock and someone I didn't write down. Brilliant. Good work, Kieran. So they're the only actual tag team in the tournament. Also, they owned the physical belts.
Those belts looked awful.
One of the phrases they gave them, Kieran, was one of the greatest teams in British wrestling history.
We'll get into this. I have never understood how the New Breed were so popular. They have never been good.
I'm going to say this now, and it's going to come up a bit later, but I did find them quite entertaining in a promo that's coming up.
You can definitely call them entertaining. You would never call them good.
No, they're awful.
Those belts were terrible.
They're shit.
I remember them. I remember seeing them in person. They were small, they were cheap, and they had an actual buckle on the back.
They looked like one of those belts you would see on high spots that you would see nearly every promoter in the UK like buy one for their new company that started up. But they went for the really cheap, shitty version.
Yeah. So we get Mark Sloan and James Ty versus the New Breed for apparently the tag team title for some reason. This fucking match. Holy shit. So, Sloan and Ty attack the Breed at the bell, and it goes better for Sloan than Ty. He flings Curve over the top rope while Ash immediately blocks Ty's punch, clotheslines him and suplexes him. He gets nothing. Ty and Curve botch an Irish whip, and then Curve can't quite figure out how to grapevine a leg. And then Ash tags in and can't figure out how to hook an armbar properly. Curve hits something called curved air, which appears to be like a Genichiro Tenryu style back elbow drop off the middle rather than the top. It looks terrible, but is described as one of the crowd's favourite moves.
It's like someone's falling out of bed, isn't it?
Ty is up before he can get hit with a second. He hits a shoulder breaker, the worst divorce court of all time, landing on his own arse and barely pulling his opponent down. Sloan tags in and we're told we'll get to see his unique style of rudo wrestling. I don't know what that means. Oh, God, I've started a play-by-play, but I cannot carry on. This is just... There is a moment in this. Fucking hell. So, Ty and Curve are legal. They both get to their feet for a double tag. Ty instead goes over to referee Hayde Vanson to distract him so he doesn't see the Breed tag, but it turned into a right mess as Ash gets the tag, comes in, starts fighting. Hayde lets him do it for a bit, then realises he's supposed to chuck him out. It is horrible.
The commentator tries to cover this up because he says he was dazed and confused and he went to the wrong corner.
Yes.
When really the guy was trying to hide the babyface pin, and I was like, I appreciate that. That was quick.
So Curve takes down both heels with a double clothesline, and you think now would be the time for a hot tag, but no. James Ty is up first and slams him and goes to the top. Curve wobbles into the ropes to crotch him and hits a top rope Frankensteiner as we go to break. And I wrote, holy shit, this is going through an ad break. This should have ended 4 minutes ago. It
was a really nice WWF SmackDown 2 break screen that they had, which I thought was really nice. I just appreciate the little things out of it.
Because these are ripped from the commercial tapes the FWA will put out, we don't actually get any of the ads, which is one of the favourite parts of Andy and I reviewing Transatlantic Wrestling Challenge and UWA. The only ads we get are their single frame still ads for an upcoming show. I think this one advertises July the 1st with the blue meanie on it.
Yeah.
Yeah, coming soon to Portchester. It's a blue meanie.
Poor blue meanie. So they finally do their double tag as we come back from the break, and there's a cut to Curve swabbing around on the floor to cover whatever the fuck Sloan and Ash were botching in the ring at that moment. And it just keeps going. Sloan and Ty work over Ash with, I just put shit. I didn't even list what they were doing. Ash lands on his own head trying to do a slice break number 2 on Ty. One of them misses when they do total elimination.
I've put total elimination shite and then just that at the end of it. There's nothing.
Yes, and then the finish is supposed to be a double cutter off the middle rope. But Curve, instead of going straight out, ends up turning sideways and pushing all of them into the ropes as he goes. Fucking hell. Ash pins Ty, and mercifully, this is over. I wrote, this is dog shit, but still possibly better than every UWA tag match Andy and I had to watch.
The line I put, Kieran, as my summation of this match was decent for 2001 Brit Rest.
I mean,
I Curve to grade on, fucking hell.
In the case of me being the babyface, I will say decent Angel's Wings into a DDT face out by Mark Sloan during this.
Sure.
Other than that,
There were moves.
Yeah.
After this match, Sloan Liger bombs one of them. James Time magically gets to his feet after taking 3 devastating finishers in a row to suplex the other one directly on his head. And then Sloan and Ty shove down Capo Khan and leave.
and he falls asleep. He basically is asleep the entire. He looks like he's sleeping the entire time that they're about to get ready to do the Van Breedenator, as they call it.
Yeah, this genius thinks it's a good idea to slap Curve, so they punch him in the bollocks. These are the baby faces. They punch him in the balls, force him to hold chairs in place for a double Van Terminator. This whole episode is just shy of 25 minutes long. All of this, up until now, took up 17 minutes of this fucking show.
Broadway.
Christ. At the very least, we're told next week we're going to get Jody Fleisch versus Doug Williams.
Yeah, I was like, oh, great, palate cleanser.
Yeah.
I bet you were doing cartwheels, mate.
We get a backstage Doug Williams promo saying that what he did to Parker was just the start of anarchy in the FWA. He is very shiny. He calls Flash and says he's gonna break him like the fool that you are. At least he's not talking about whipping him like a dog. So, match number 2, and I guess de facto main event: Paul Travell versus Scotty Rock, another quarterfinal. Rock is introduced as, quote, "This is their words, not mine, the Fighting Gypsy."
He's undefeated at Fairgrounds.
Undefeated at the Fairgrounds, yes.
Very much like the boxcar leagues, what Homer Simpson had to go through to face Frederick Tate.
I think the last time I've seen a gypsy gimmick was in PCW, and I'm pretty sure it was Cabret.
It was Joel Cabret and who's now Sammy D, where they tried to sell a dog during one angle. And they had an actual dog in the ring as well, yeah.
It's like Fludder just watched Snatch for the first time and went, yeah, that'll work.
Oh, do what you want, mate.
So,
Romania.
Scotty Rock here is the FWA All England champion, but also not the FWA All England champion.
What?
Come with me on a side journey into the history of the FWA All England title. So, when you get a belt designed and made by Joe Marshall, J-Mar, you are also sent a proof, so you can look it over and approve the design. You may have noticed that the belt that Rock is holding is identical to the FWA heavyweight title, just in black and silver rather than gold. That's because it is the proof for the main belt, and if you were to get up close, it actually says FWA heavyweight champion on it. Standard practice was you went, yeah, that's great, and sent the proof back to Joe, and he would then reuse what he could and bin the rest. But with Sloan paying for the main belt, LSR Cabrera paid Marshall for this, and the FWA got a secondary singles title out of it. Genius.
Is it very much similar to Transatlantic Wrestling Challenge, where they used 3 different belts, but they were all the wrong belt?
No, that company, they just went to the local trophy maker and just went, I'll have 5 of your best football trophies, please. Not even your best, maybe your second best. There was a company I used to go and watch that had a men's and a women's champion who, suspiciously, the title designs were exactly the same, but you never saw both of them holding their belts together at the same time. So, this belt had been used as the FWA European Union title. And that was the secondary belt under the heavyweight belt. On October the 28th, 2000, Stunning Stuart Fury defeated Lightning Lay and Rockin' Agony. I swear these are all actual wrestlers. Oh, we've lost Andy. I think he's dead.
What?
Rockin' Agony.
What?
Oh, I'm in Rockin' Agony. Stunning Stuart Fury becomes the first champion somewhere in the Netherlands, defeating these two. He would lose
Stuart
it.
Fury's a bad name as well. My God.
Stunning Stuart Fury. He would lose it the next day to Jody Fleisch in Portsmouth in another 3-way, also involving Scott Parker. I can only find evidence of Stuart Fury ever having 6 matches, and 4 of them were 3-ways. So Rock allegedly won it from Fleisch on April the 14th, but I can't find any evidence of this, as Jody isn't listed on Cage Match's wrestling that day, and Scotty Rock isn't listed on Cage Match at all. He doesn't have a profile. So, at some point over the summer of 2001, the EU title gets abandoned despite Rock carrying it all over these TV shows. It would go on to be revived as the European Wrestling Union European title that was basically then just traded back and forth between Robbie Brookside and Flatliner for 3 years. But with Rock still holding onto this physical belt on all this TV they taped, the FWA decided to tell the audience this was a Gypsy Fighting Championship, won by being undefeated on all the fairgrounds, and eventually we'll get to see it become the All England title, I think in July or August. Incidentally, how Brexit that a belt that previously represented the entire European Union now just represents England.
Yeah.
So, back from the side quest, Paul Travell is in hazardous mode here in some horrible tights.
Mm-hmm. And as well, Kieran, he's supposed to be a ladies' man, according to
Paul Travell?
Yeah.
Sorry, Paul. He's a lovely man. Sorry. All right, fine. He is the 6th person in 2 shows to start his match in a black t-shirt or vest. What happens? Oh, Jesus Christ. Rock attacks him before the bell, and then the lights go out.
One note I did put here about the lights was they went out. They had to get a spotlight on them for a minute until the electrician got Alex Shane in a wrist lock to get his down envelope.
I've got a jump start from the Gypsy, the lights go out, technical difficulties, a spotlight is on, someone cut the wires, which, you know, with Linsky in the background, you know, you can never be too careful.
So they have something resembling a wrestling match. I mean, what they do is all fine, I guess. This was the 2nd match in a row where a man got crotched on the top rope and then his opponent brought him back in with a top rope Frankensteiner. Rock goes to bring a chair into the ring, but Travell baseball slides it into him as he tries to get back in. He then collects his own chair, and as they slide in with them, the lights go out again. On the fan cam, and with apologies to Days of Thunder, a large man appears. A large silhouette enters the ring and chokeslams both men. The lights come back up, and we're told it's Dominator, Spirit of Instinct, and, quote, further members of the Dead Souls with pleasure on the outside. The only shot we get of pleasure practically goes inside the poor woman. Jesus Christ.
Where the Dominator goes, pleasure follows, and she has very little on.
Yeah. And while this is happening, 3 men who are the very embodiment of 2001 heel indie faction with their long hair, shiny trousers, alleged occult leanings and Jeff Hardy shirts beat up the participants, and then we just go off the air.
Yeah.
Alex Shane's dream, this, isn't it?
Is this I've put down, is this guy like a mix of the members of Demolition, The Undertaker, and some big bulky lads?
Yeah. to be honest, I don't know how long this lasts. So Dominator is a guy, I believe his name is Stu Allen, and he ran Extreme World Warfare. Who, as I mentioned earlier on, what seemed like 3 days ago, had some tie-ups with FWA. So I guess he gets to be on FWA TV. I will say, what was completely ignored is Spirit of Instinct does a really impressive cartwheel double spin kick in the middle of all this.
Good Instinct, did it?
Yeah. As we mentioned, the credits list has expanded. It says camera, Kenny McBride and Elisa Cabrera. Sound, Ralph Cardle, spelt wrong. Production crew, Ross Hutchinson, John Farrer, Mark Belton, and Mark Sloan. Any questions about any of those names, anybody?
John Farrer. I've heard of that.
I've heard that name definitely before.
Yeah. He and Steve Linsky need to go and have a chat.
Talk about rings.
Will Linsky turn up?
Good question. Director Elisa Cabrera, and then a second page with all the same information as last time, plus a credit for Profile, Sound and Lighting, whose phone number I may still have because I used to have to ring them up and book them to bring the lights.
There was one thing I wanted to just say just quickly about when they're during the SkyRock Paul Terrell match. There's Gilbert chants. Apparently, all the people in FW are evil, and the way that Mark Priest says "tope suicida," couldn't stop laughing at that.
Oh, he says "suicida," doesn't he?
Suicida. Is like what?
I thought it was a bit rich that they were chanting Gilbert at Scotty Rock when fucking Guy Thunder is on the show, who just basically looks like somebody has stretched Gilbert.
And he does a spear as well.
Yeah. So, episode 3 is June the 22nd. We get a recap of the lads from Buffy the Vampire Slayer showing up last week. German Kid versus the Dominator. But first, it is off to Commissioner Demon Fort's office, where Paul Travell arrives to ask what's going on. He says the match was a no contest and he wants to know who advances in the tournament. Graduate of the Phil Powers School of Promos, Scotty Rock arrives, and he is loud and he is angry.
One of my notes here is you can see when Scotty Rock's doing his shouty promo, is Paul Travell literally laughing his cock off.
Yeah, I couldn't tell if he was supposed to be or not because Demon Fort makes reference to it, but yeah. She tells them to find 2 partners each for a 6-man tag next week. Why?
Yeah, I don't get why that's resolving the problem of them both being eliminated.
Why not just have them fight each other again, or mix them up with another feud and say, oh, I don't know, Jack Xavier and Alex Shane are also having issues. Why don't you each team with one of them and you can fight it out next week? That would make much more sense.
Have we had Ken German's entrance yet? Because there's quite possibly one of the most awkward lines of commentary I think I've ever heard.
Go for it.
Trust a German to get into a battle he can't possibly win.
Yeah. When we get back into the ring, the match has already started. Dominator squashes German as the new breed arrive in the commentary booth, and I pretty much had to mute this. They mumble over the other commentary we can still hear from Ross Gordon, which seems much more prominent than the last 2 weeks.
They call Dominator's finisher the Altar of Pain. I did put it. It's very much like a sniff of the pits, in it. Just like, sniff them under there and take them out.
Okay, for anybody confused, it's a dragon sleeper. It's supposed to be a sniff of the pits.
There's a bit during this where, because I've kept the commentary on, where the main commentator just goes on about how he doesn't like long hair on guys.
What's this commentary by Masaki Mochizuki? What the fuck's going on?
I was like, this is on TV. Why are you suddenly going on about, I don't like long hair on guys? I'm just like, what?
Yeah, very, very weird. Kid German botches getting into the ring, then botches getting clotheslined or doing a drop kick. They couldn't decide what it was. And then Dominator puts him in the Dragon Sleeper for a tap out that takes Linsky far too long to register because he's tapping with his hand on Linsky's blind side and he can't see it. Yeah. Linsky takes a shit bump over the top as the Goth boys all do the diamond cutter. This was a turd. We get a recap of the new breed beating Ty and Sloan last week and the double Van Daminator? No, it's a Van Terminator. I don't know why I wrote Van Daminator. Is now called the Lynchpin on Chatra. We go back to Demon Fort's office as some 60s porno music starts playing.
Get me the commissioner.
Yeah. Khan arrives. and moaning about being beaten up by the new breed. He gets in the fabulous line, "I've been in the ghetto all week and they've been blazing me raw. They've been cussing me down. They've been saying I got my rear end whooped by a couple of jabronis. Fucking pissed myself." He says he wants a chance to get back at them. Demon Fort says she'll grant the rematch if he can find a tag team. I'd fucking hope so. What else was he going to do? That's the whole point.
I like how this reveals the commissioner doesn't even watch the show.
Yeah.
Just like, I didn't see that.
Yeah. So that's kind of her character, is that she's entitled and she's doing all of this for herself. Like, she always refers to them as my wrestlers, I noticed. So she doesn't, she's supposed to be like a bit entitled and a bit above all of this, and is just sort of doing it as a way to forward her own career. Apparently not that far from the truth.
Was she in the business long, or was she a wrestler?
I cannot remember.
Victorian.
Oh, hang on.
I'm not searching up Demon. Victoria. Oh,
Researcher Eddie is on the case. I do seem to recall she was an actress that Elisar knew.
Right.
And was just sort of doing it so she had some tape to show people. Personally, I wouldn't show this to anybody.
I would hide this. I would go, nope, this didn't happen. No, I can't find anything.
Mo tries to get her number and she chucks him out. We cannot possibly do justice to the level of acting in this segment in particular.
He's wonderful, though. He's wonderful acting. He's great. He's box office. I like him.
You sent us a DM about the lovely stationery she has in her office. Yes. You're a big fan of the folders in the background.
I'm a big fan of the building site office that they normally have in that bit that they've commandeered to film wrestling in.
It is just the office in the community centre.
Yeah. Yeah.
So a new ad in the ad break, July 29th at the Pyramid Centre with the Blue Meaning. Match number 2, Jody Fleisch versus Doug Williams, tournament action. Jody is audibly announced as Flash, but his graphic still says Fleisch. We're told that with Rock and Travell going to a no contest, the winner of this gets a bye to the final to face the winner of Scott Parker versus Alex Shane. I'm going to let the cat out of the bag early. I thought this was really good.
Yes.
Yeah.
I thought this was really good. They set up Jody like straight away as like the agile babyface who won't back down. Everything they do looks good. This is a cut above everything we've seen so far.
It's the best. It's the best match of the TV show so far.
Yeah,
I said he gets the best pop of the episode. There's a lot of the stuff is very crisp, and obviously clearly they've worked together probably numerous times and stuff like that, and had the idea of it. This is the best match. I said I enjoyed it really much.
Yeah. So it really kind of heats up. So Jody's getting out wrestled by Doug. He gets a hope spot with a thrust kick into Williams' throat in the corner. When he leaps up to the top, Williams shoves him off, and Jody takes what I call the full Van Damme into the railings and over them into the front row. He tries to come back with a springboard off the rail into the aisle, but Doug moves and Jody hits the barrier on the other side, and then Williams spends a good 30 seconds just pinballing him off every guardrail he can find. Fleisch takes some of these incredibly hard. Like, they don't move when he hits them.
Well, he's good at selling them as well, isn't he?
Yeah. He manages to backdrop Doug into the crowd, hits a springboard flip dive off the barrier onto him, and then back in the ring, he hits a springboard Rana for a near fall before getting dropped balls first on the top rope and brought back in with a hard back suplex for a 2 count the other way. Jody turns a German suplex into a Cazadora clutch for a 2 count. Williams avoids a tip up in the corner and plants him with a German, but again, Fleisch kicks out. Jody dropped Ho-Ho's Doug into the middle turnbuckle and connects with a top rope drop kick so high, it looks more like M. Bison's head stomp than a drop kick. He is practically vertical when he makes contact.
One thing I did want to know from this match, Kieran, was like the 2 over energetic lads in the front row. I wonder if they ended up being like proper regulars at shows. And
where you see the hard cam, you'll notice a section either side of the aisle. Most, if not all, of those people were FWA trainees.
Ah, right.
One of them I can identify as going on to be a wrestler. I believe. So the young lad in the front, as you look from the hard cam on the left side, in the front corner of that section is a fella with quite distinct bleached blonde hair.
Ah, yeah, he absolutely stood out.
I do believe he went on to wrestle as QT McFluff across the UK. Andy, better or worse name than Rockin' Anarchy or Rockin' Agony or whatever the fuck it's called?
I think that's better than Rocky Anarchy, I would say.
That's better than QT McFluff.
Yeah. I think I was going to say, I've got it here. I think decent mat work from the both of them. But again, I put what do you expect? It's probably the two best guys in the company in terms of wrestling terms.
I think an underrated part of Jody's game was that he could actually wrestle. So people would go and see him for the flips. And to be honest, ring psychology I don't think was ever his best thing, but in terms of like the mechanics of wrestling and being able to actually wrestle as well as do the flips, he was very, very good.
Well, you can see sort of like 2 years before this in UWA, like the potential was there, wasn't it? With
they used him as a jobber, and I remember seeing a thing with Stevie Knight where he said, so I don't know if you remember, Andy, like Jody's first match on that was as a replacement for Doug Williams in a match with Stevie Knight, and he got squashed. Knight was told, don't give him anything, and Stevie was like, no, have you seen him? He is really good. I'm going to let him hit me with a couple of impressive things, and he did. And then beat him. So anyway, he's more of a. I don't know. We're getting a big side tangent about Jody here. I don't know if he was ever the finished product. He was always a little raw around the edges.
Did any company ever properly get behind him though, in like a big way?
FWA tried to. There were things we will get into later on in this podcast that kind of stopped that. But they did put their title on him for all of 12 days. And I think he was figured to be something going forward, but I don't know. He's one of those, I'm sure he's had a fine career that he's happy with, but I think he has never truly lived up to the potential that a lot of other people saw in him. Fans, wrestlers, and promoters alike. He could have been so much more than he actually was, I think. And I don't mean that as a knock on him in any way, even though it may sound like it.
And I think if you take that now to maybe 2023, and the style he was working, say 1999, doing all them flips, like 6 months later he's doing tours of America because like the demand is there from like a UK talent to go over there. It'd be like Leon Slater, for instance. He'd be very.
He went from UWA to Michinoku Pro.
Yes, they mentioned this in the commentary.
Yeah. So anyhow, this finishes up when Jody unfortunately misses a shooting star press, and Williams strikes with the Revolution DDT that unfortunately had very little revolution to it for the pin. Best match of the series so far. Maybe the best match Andy and I have watched in all of our TV reviewing. This was better than anything we watched on UWA.
No, it's not. It's not Big Papa T versus on Soldier, mate.
So was there not enough scrapyard in this for you?
There wasn't.
This match is 22 years old, and it wouldn't look remotely out of place on any modern show. Killer stuff for 2001 show in a community centre.
I agree with the lad who says we should have no more 316 signs.
Yes.
Like this was really good, like really enjoyable, quite a good watch. I said, it was the best thing I've seen so far in the four episodes we've watched. And it is, again, it's just showing these are the two guys that the company needs to get massively behind.
If I saw this match on my TV, I would tune in for next week's episode. It's that simple. And would probably try and get to a show, to be honest. I don't know if I'd say that after the New Breed match.
You'd be walking out like Kieran, giving it the middle finger to them.
So even though he lost, they try and give Jody a bit of his heat back. So Williams tries to beat him up after the match, but Jody gets a chair and clobbers him. I don't know if that was strictly necessary, but I kind of understand if they want to keep him strong, if they think they're going to do something with him.
There's a bit where he hits Doug with the chair. Doug's on the ground, then you see Doug get back up with the chair, and he just looks really angry, and he's just shouting with the chair, like, "Come on, like, fight me!"
If you got hit on the head with a chair, you'd find one of your own and start shouting. I'm sure.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
Just I love the abuse. He's like, it's just great screen grab.
And so, Frontier Wrestling on MyTV, episode 4, June 29th, 2001. Paul Travell is having a little stroll through the back of the community centre when he is attacked by Scotty Rock and two unnamed goons. I'm going to name one of them. It's James Ty. The other one is in horrible solid blue tights, and we'll find out who he is later on.
I did put here attacked by rock, pebble, and rubble.
God, the Flintstones have turned heel. Our first match is Guy Thunder versus Gary Hayward. Ooh, Gary Hayward.
Didn't they make like pickles and what have you, Haywards?
Yes, the heir to the pickle empire, Harry, I don't know what his fucking name is, Gary Hayward.
Gary Hayward.
Yeah.
Darts champion 1994, Gary Hayward.
He may well have been.
One of my first lines here was Hayward with a forehead Anne McPartlin would be proud of.
He may well have been a darts champion because I can find out very little about him. The earliest I can find on him is wrestling on the first FWA show on FWA 1 in 1999, and the latest I can find is him working in an academy show, an FWA academy show, in April 2002. And no wonder he wasn't around much if he was taking stuff like he took in this match. We will get to that. I've confused and confuzzled myself, so I'm going back to the start. Hayward attacks Thunder as he steps through the ropes and clotheslines him. Thunder no-sells that and a rocker dropper, and then, my reason for my confusion, I got distracted by the commentary.
Yes.
This is verbatim. When lightning strikes, Thunder's not far behind, and just like Thunder, Guy Thunder strikes silently and deadly. Boom! Boom! The rain that follows Thunder looks like the tears in Hayward's eyes. Eddie, what is one thing we know about Thunder? One irrefutable scientific fact about Thunder?
It's not... Sorry. I'm gonna be really dumb and say I don't know. Why don't you tell?
Do you have any guesses, Andy? Do you want to help him out?
I'm just thinking of the song "When the Sun Shine After the Rain." Yeah. I'm just thinking of that with the words thundering.
When has anybody ever known thunder to be silent?
Oh yeah. Anytime I just hear thunder now, I just keep thinking of AC/DC. I don't know why.
Also, not quiet. AC/DC not known for being quiet. Their singer had to retire because he was going deaf and couldn't hear the rest of the band.
I've just put here that Hayward just tries to hit Guy with all the smackdown, shut your mouth finishing moves that just don't get no. The guy just no sells, and then he just hits Thunder Strike.
Yeah, he hits. Yeah, so Thunder hits a power bomb. Something else I couldn't be asked rewinding for, and the crazy spear out to the floor. Hayward is not as lucky as Scott Parker. He smashes the back of his head on the railings. So Alex Shane and his gang of goons wander into the aisle, and I noticed for the first time one of them has a cracking mullet he's tied back. Thunder hits a top rope splash, a fireman's carry neck breaker, and cloudburst, the most dangerous vertebraker / cop killer you have ever seen.
Jesus.
Fucking poor Gary Hayward practically had his chin in his belly button when he hit the mat. Oh God. Thunder did nothing to hold him up. You're supposed to like grip your opponent's arms tightly to your sides. So like I have seen, admittedly they're related, I have seen Cody Rhodes hit this so gently on Dustin. This
we watched it together in that in the must-see matches.
Yeah. Fucking
he gently drops him down.
Yeah,
This does not happen here.
No, this was like Gary Hayward owed him money. Do you remember? We keep referring back to UWA. Do you remember Leon Murphy versus Mad Dog McPhee, where they had clearly had a disagreement backstage, and Thunder punches McPhee, no-sells everything apart from his finisher, and then pops up at 3.1 and chases him backstage to beat him up again?
Yeah. This one. And I know to go back to an earlier joke, but literally Hayward was pickled, weren't he?
Yeah. Yeah. Fucking hell. This was Christ. So that finished just so violent.
But he's proper like indie moves at the time, and like they probably saw stuff off like tapes from.
It's tapes and video games.
Midwest America. Oh, I seen this on a fucking backward show in the middle of nowhere in America in front of 10 people. All right, I'll do it this weekend. How do you fancy taking it, Gary? All right.
Yeah.
Gary doesn't get a say in the matter at all.
No. So Shane does the I am very tall ring entrance of stepping over the top rope, only the ropes are very tight and he's not actually tall enough to do it. So it's a bit of a struggle. And when they snap back up, you can see that they're chest height and he probably shouldn't have done this. Poor Gary Hayward, his night is not over. He gets clotheslined. The crowd get called morons, and Shane offers Guy the position of his head of security. 2 years ago, you were ditching him as your tag partner because he was boring.
Can I also notice the microphone in everyone's hands here looks so tiny?
Well, particularly, so Alex Shane has got big hands and Guy Thunder is wearing Goldberg gloves, which always make the microphones look small. Thunder proves that he is indeed boring by lifelessly saying the only thing it looks like the show stealer has stolen was a plate of cakes backstage. And he turns down the offer. After insulting him, gently hands him the microphone back. And Alex says, fine, no hurt feelings, let him go. And as Thunder gets amid the security, Alex gives them the signal for them to jump him. And Alex then beckons the camera in so we can see that he is incapable of spitting as he lamely drools on Guy Thunder. Eddie?
Yes?
Did you enjoy this next segment? Was this the bit that entertained you?
Wayne's World Party Time.
Would you like to tell us about Breed TV?
Oh God, I'll be honest, I still don't know which one is which.
It's not the only breed you've been involved with, Eddie.
No, at least this one didn't book me in a cave and give me an illness, So I'm still waiting for that phone call, Mitch. If you want to pay me anytime soon. This is not a shoot interview. Come on. It was New Breed TV. It was like Wayne's World. It was like they were attempting like the TV show from Wayne's World.
Yeah.
And they're like Capo Can, more like Capri Sun, and I was like, this is I'm enjoying this. And then they're like reliving how they beat up Capo Can, kept making fun of his name. Then they had him as a Womble, and he was beaten up by Batman as Superman because it couldn't be shown because it was too violent.
Yes, they say the real footage is too violent, but they have their imaginations. And they gather up. So they've got a wrestling ring in front of them and a toy ring and a bunch of toys. Batman can be Ash, Superman can represent Curve, and the Womble with, quote, its big nose and gormless expression can be Mo. And then they have the figures like reenact all this in the ring. The next bit was very confusing.
This bit gets a bit weird. This is where they go like, because they're talking about the tag team that Capo's gonna bring. It's apparently from Mexico. Well, and then they put up a picture of Che Guevara.
So no, they do not. No. Hold on a second.
I thought there was one with Che Guevara.
So, firstly,
Enigma. Sorry.
They say they don't know who the next team will be, but Curve knows someone who does, and it's their former spiritual leader, Enigma.
All right.
Who is not there, and I have no idea who that is. But Curve has a gothic glove puppet with a question mark on it to represent Enigma. And the puppet tells him the new team are, quote, from Mexico or somewhere like that. And the picture he holds up does indeed say Che Guevara on it. It is a picture of Noddy Holder.
Forgot that.
And Ash says, it can't be him, he's dead. The puppet then holds up a second picture, this time of Jennifer Lopez. And when Ash asks who her partner is going to be, the puppet tells Curve they'll be very strong and produces a photo of Jeff Capes. So Ash, they decide their next opponents are going to be Jennifer Lopez and Jeff Capes. Ash is having none of it and ends it by saying it doesn't matter who Khan brings, they're the golden boys of the FWA and they'll beat them.
When he's doing the voice of Enigma, he keeps doing like a noise. Like, woo.
Yeah, I don't know if I can do the noise, but yeah, he does this weird little squeaky noise. I have seen a lot of head shaking going on in the Ogden living room. Do you have any thoughts on this, Andy?
Terrible. Absolutely terrible. The stuff with the toy ring and everything, bloody hell, I used to have my own wrestling promotion when I was about 8 with my toy ring.
They probably did too, but they were 25.
Yeah, I know. I was still booking when I was 25, trying to get the Transformers over the Ghostbusters. My God, terrible. Absolutely terrible. That's all I can say.
I actually quite enjoyed this.
Well,
Yeah.
I'll give him this. It was at least a backstage angle that didn't seem stilted, like what the Montfort chat thing was.
It felt natural. It felt natural. I feel like those guys are comfortable doing that and having that kind of thing, whereas everything else I think we've seen feels very much
like a porno.
Movie. Yeah.
Yeah, it was different. So it wasn't the bad porno acting skits, and it wasn't just another wrestling interview or promo. It was a different way of getting over their characters. However, I wrote in all caps, where is this chemistry when they're wrestling? Because they wrestle like they met that day, every single match. However, they bounced off each other. They had good comic timing. Some of it I thought was actually genuinely funny. Apparently, I have heard that they get less funny and start to outstay their welcome a bit. But as this first one, I quite enjoyed. Let's see if anybody's opinions change on this as we go forward.
Generally, as we know, Kieran, that most promos take place in the toilet, don't they?
I forgot UWA promo bog, yeah.
At least they've upgraded to like promo bedroom.
Yeah, you've got the UWA promo bog, and then you've got Victoria de Montfort's, office.
Porno office, yeah.
Porno office, yeah. Bow, bow.
We get a recap of the commissioner setting up the 6-man last week, and then Rock's team attacking Travell at the start of the show, which brings us to Scotty Rock, James Ty, and 5-Star versus Paul Travell, Jack Xavier, and Jody Fleisch.
This is where I hate the commentator. This is where I begin to despise them very much. So.
Okay. Do you want to expand now or when we get to...
Yeah, as it goes on when we go to the match.
Okay,
there's a lot.
Okay, so Commissioner Victoria has sadly been allowed into the comms booth and is stinking up that joint. 3 people in this match are wrestling in black t-shirts, and this is Jody's era of having a matching singlet to go with his shiny flappy trousers. 5-Star is otherwise known as 5-Star Flash or Mark 5-Star Belton. He is from K-Star Wrestling in the Midlands. I thought he was new to the company when he showed up on the 2003 shows I worked, and until watching this, I had no idea he had been in the company beforehand. His gear would not get much better. One man in this crowd is very upset by Scotty Rock.
Yeah.
He was fuming over the barrier. Good Lord. I thought there was going to be an actual incident for a moment.
Yeah.
So Rock and Travell start out with some fast-paced stuff, ending when Travell hits a spine buster but misses a middle rope elbow. 5-Star tags in and hits what I could only call a flying something off the middle rope. I think it was supposed to be like a Hurricane Rana, but he ends up just wrapping his legs around Travell's middle and they just sort of fall to the ground. Cut to the crowd to very obviously edit something out. And then Travell hits a wheelbarrow suplex as a double tag, and suddenly it turns into Toryumon with loads of flying and lucha tag rules.
Yeah.
Jody Fleisch hits an incredible running hands-free springboard moonsault on Ty. It was so nice. Rock takes his head off with a springboard top rope dropkick. And then flattens Ty and Xavier with a flip dive. Travell leaps onto the pile with a top rope crossbody, and then 5-Star hits a springboard twisting something. Jody finishes it off with a springboard flip dive.
I did put here, Kieran, like it was a springboard roly-poly, like the two of them.
Pretty much.
Jody's probably the best springboards I think I've seen, and that includes probably modern day as well. That he hits a springboard spinning heel kick at some point.
Yep.
And it's incredible.
Yeah. Ty and Xavier press the reset button with a lock up. They do some rope running stuff that they're not quite good enough to do yet. Jack does quite an impressive blind reverse leapfrog off the middle rope, though. Kicks Ty out to the floor. Rock and Travell drop each other with clotheslines. Fleisch flips through a belt and monkey flip, but 5-star flips through Jody's Hurricane Rana, which I thought was quite impressive, and I don't recall having seen before. Takes him over the head scissors before getting knocked out the ring with that springboard spinning leg lariat you were talking about.
Yeah.
Ty comes in, sets Jody up for a superplex, but gets pushed off into a Travell T-bone. Gives Travell no help going over and just gets deadlift T-boned.
Travell hits a great T-bone from not only this match, but in the match before. His T-bones are cracking.
Travell, for a small, slim guy, was oddly good at some power moves. Like his spine buster is cracking as well. So this all happens. Fleisch then goes for the shooting star press and scores the pin. There are two major problems. Number one, Jody lands entirely on James Ty's face. Number two, Jody dislocates his own elbow when he lands. Xavier and Travell celebrate extremely quickly and then sprint to the back as we fade to the credits. We talked about the commentary running underneath the actual commentary, and the reason there is no more Ross Gordon on this show is he had to take Jody Fleisch to the hospital.
Yeah.
Pretty unfortunate way to end the last show we're going to be talking about.
Yeah, there's more names added to the credits, as you can say.
Yeah, there are indeed names such as Tom Lancaster, who long-time British wrestling fans will know, and Mark Petar. Do you know who that is?
No.
Mark what? Petar?
Petar?
Were they in the FWA?
Kind of.
Yeah. Are they famous?
No. Mark Petar was the man who ran Strong Style Tapes, who almost got Frontiers of Honor called off because he was selling Ring of Honor tapes under the desk right next to Rob Feinstein and the other fella whose name I can't remember. And when they found out, they went fucking ballistic and threatened to pull all their talent from the show.
Right.
So there we go. I'm going to start with you, Eddie. What do you reckon? How do you feel about this company after watching 4 episodes of their television?
I enjoy it. I think there's some stuff there. There's some stuff I don't like at all. We can bin Mark Priest. Just purely that, as I said, I was talking to that 6-man. He keeps being really weirdly creepy towards Victoria DeMont for talking about mirrors in rooms. And...
He talks about sneaking into her dressing room and selling Polaroids on eBay and selling stuff he nicks from her on eBay.
Yeah, and then saying like he's exposed her, but not in a good way. And I'm like, oh fuck, what is this?
It's very 2001, isn't it?
It's very like, I think from the entire time that we've watched these, is he a heel? I'm assuming he is.
I don't know. It's I was going to get into it in what I wrote, but I definitely think he would be better with someone to bounce off, so he can decide if he's Tony Schiavone or Bobby Heenan, because he's trying to be both.
And I kept thinking when you heard the commentary underneath, I was like, is that someone who's doing the same commentary beside him and they've just edited out for some reason or something?
What, like when WWE didn't want to pay Jesse Ventura and just removed him from old WCW footage, so Jim Ross talks to himself for 20 minutes on a Sting and Vader match.
But it's just like, it's like trying to do like a Joey Styles one-man thing, but having like an agenda and a gimmick, and it's like it just doesn't work because, as you say, you have no one to balance off. There are pieces I've seen and there are characters I'm interested in. I'm interested to see in the journey of Paul Travell. I'm interested in Jody, and I'm interested in the new breed to see how this all goes. And there's some decent stuff. It's not awful, but it's not, the best.
Is it interesting enough to keep doing this show, or do I have to replace you?
No, I will. No, I know it. Definitely. I'm very much sold on it. I think, as I said, there's some good stuff in it. I've tried to just search www.paultravell.co.uk. That website doesn't exist anymore.
I would imagine none of the websites you see on this show exist anymore.
But yeah, I thought, it was an abrupt way to end your TV show, obviously, kind of on a somber note as well.
It's slightly unfortunate.
Yeah, but yeah, I very much, I'm still on board the FWA train, and I'm really curious to see where this goes.
Awesome. Andy, how about you?
I think for myself, with the episodes being like 20 to 25 minutes, I thought were a godsend. It went quick, absolutely quick.
I'll take this over 3 hours of Raw.
Yeah, you would any day. I think for me, they needed more promos and introducing characters. It just felt like the person turns up to an office, has a go at De Montfort, and there you go. That's a character. The only character, apart from, New Breed playing with the wrestling figures, I think the only character who you knew straight away was Alex Shane.
What a surprise.
What a surprise. Yeah, he got over as like, this fella's the main baddie. He's got his goons in leather coats. He was the one who, instantly to the viewing public, you'd say he's the star. And I will say, bloody hell, he's bulked out since UWA. He looks huge.
Yeah, can't use him to clean out the drain pipe anymore.
Well, yeah. But I think his promo skills are still he's very much a 1999 2000 acts from WWA into straight from there,
and would continue to be for quite some time. Yeah, I think you're right that one of the weaknesses is we have clearly been dropped into an ongoing company rather than starting something.
Yeah.
So having the tournament is a good hook to start something. We are guaranteed we are going to get a new champion. However, this is very obviously something that is ongoing, and we've just been dropped into, and it's basically been left up to the commentator who is struggling to be heard above another commentator to explain who everybody is. And although the 25-minute episodes are easy to watch, if you're trying to get 2 matches in, that doesn't leave a lot of time for the promo stuff to get characters and personalities over.
Probably needs another 5-10 minutes. I will say on Mark Priest, Alan Boone. I did say to this when I first met him, quite a few years ago at a Progress show, and I'd happened to see one of his FWA shows. I thought, it's very good how you can do commentary on your own for like as one person. Bloody hell, I did it once with our Jeff at Idol Wrestling, and God, it were hard then for like 3 hours. But never mind. Like if you're on your own, talking to yourself for like God knows how long, it's hard. It's much harder than you.
Yeah, but that was with Jeff. Would that have been easier on your own?
Oh no, Jeff was very good. I will say he did fill in some gaps on that, which is on YouTube. To that. But no, I think personally, I think he did a very good job, and I think some of the lines he were coming out with, what I did here was very much my humour or Jeff's humour, very sarcastic.
Sure.
Which is very much to my taste. As a wrestling product, I think, God, it ain't half a step up. I think there's some very good workers on the show. I'm surprised Guy Thunder is a Leon Murphy, because
really,
my God, he's absolute dog shit on UWA. But now
there's no guarantee he's going to get that much better.
Well, he's turned up as this murderous killer who does spears and cop killers. So I'm interested to see those. When Jody and Doug turned up, I was like, right, let's get down to business now. These are the two probably best wrestlers in the company, and they probably will be for the next few years of FWA at that time. For me, overall, Enjoyed it. Looking forward to more. More 20 minutes, please. Thank you.
Something to potentially knock you on your ass, Andy. This aired only 1 year after Transatlantic Wrestling Challenge. Think how different these two products are. Think how much more fresh and modern and current this appears to be than that.
Well, that's the sort of thing, because this is sort of like hidden away on a lower level local TV station.
Yeah,
they haven't got like they've not got like people higher up saying no. This
no,
is what
I guess not. No, I guess they can just
be like Gladiators, like what Transatlantic did.
Yeah, I guess they can just make their show and put it on TV. Yeah.
UWA would do, and maybe and like World of Sport later on when ITV relaunched that. I think, you know what, not too bad. Looking forward to see what happens.
Well, bad news, Freddie. If we do the podcast at this pace, you only have 7 more months of Mark Priest commentary to look forward to.
and listen, like, you know, to each their own. There's just some parts of it where it was just, you know, I get where he was coming from, and I get the commentary, and yeah, it is probably extremely difficult doing a one-man commentary job and stuff like that. Respect for that. It was just, some of it was just, like, I just didn't. If I was someone watching that as a casual person watching that, I'd be kind of like, I'm not sure about this. I just think, as I said, there was, you know, like, going back to it just again, not the commentary, just the entire thing. Yeah, there needed to be a bit more kind of, who are these people and why should we care about them and stuff like that. Not enough promos. It was kind of just almost, in essence, jumping you into something that you were, you know, that you were kind of, we'll explain who all these people are, but these are all these people are right now at the moment.
Yeah.
Not all of them had.
Well, I think sometimes as well, Eddie, even to nowadays in 2023, you can say that with some TV wrestling, like, why should I care about this person?
Yeah.
Oh yeah, and I think the thing is, as I said, like, it's still a problem from now. Like, you know, on AEW TV recently, the Workhorsemen came out and challenged FTR, and people were in the crowd were chanting, "Who are you?" So, you know, there's that way where it's like, if you don't explain who people are, you know, then if the crowd aren't going to care who these people are, then the people at home are going to go, well, I don't know who these are.
Unless they've seen JD Drake's bowling in Germany, they're not going to go out.
But I think, like, there's some stuff here, and like, as I said, for the time, and especially for, like, you know, it's going along the right lines of what you'd kind of expect something if it was an indie who was kind of like trying to take the mantle of the UK version of Ring of Honor or something like that. Then,
which, remember, doesn't exist yet.
Yep.
No.
Yeah. No, we're still on that day before it happened.
Yeah.
But for that, and especially since, as you say, there's not a lot of, I think the only other wrestling show, I think I checked while you were researching it, was like an all-star wrestling show, which was like, that was it, really. So it's, you know, it's different, and it'll appeal to an audience. Yeah.
Yeah. I like that it moved at a good pace. There's always something happening. Every episode ends with a cliffhanger. Unfortunately, the one at the end of episode 4 is one of the top babyfaces has just broken his arm. Legit. I like that they managed to establish the 2 big heels in Williams and Shane, and they've established Scott Parker as they're on their way to establishing Scott Parker as a high up babyface through him advancing in the tournament, and all the ladies love him. And I think they wanted Jody up there with him, but the injury has kind of put the brakes on that. I haven't watched ahead, really. I don't know if and when he comes back in this run. I don't know if we will get to see him before the end of this series. Yeah. Only 25 minutes, easy to watch. It's pretty fun. It's interesting from my perspective, it's interesting seeing where this bunch of people that I ended up working with came from, because I hadn't seen, when I started, the only episode of this I had seen was the very last one. So there we go. That is it for episode 1 of Nuffink and Like It. Thank you so much to Eddie and Andy for embarking on this ridiculous journey with me. Eddie, give us your socials and whatnot. Where can people find you if you want to be found, all that kind of shit?
You can find me at Eddie Sideburns on Twitter. We'll be bringing back 5-Star Wrestling in the year 2025. If you can trust Stephen Gauntly to create a company and bring it back, you can trust me. You can also find me sometimes on the Arn and Eddie Experience, if that still exists. I think it does. And yeah, that's about it.
And Andy, what about you? What's going on with GCP? Where can we find that? And who are you?
So you can follow me on Twitter at OggiePart3. You follow my podcast, GCP Podcast, which is not the one to do with Google Cloud products, at GCP Podcast 1 on Twitter. We do plenty of live show reviews. We also do a couple of projects ongoing. We're doing a project with our mate Chris Wilson about 5-Star Wrestling. Eddie's favourite company. We're currently going to go into the free sports era. We've just done the first episode on when they were on 5-Star on Sky, and then we're going to go into 6 episodes on free sports. I also do a project with from Grapple, Matty Edwards, called Shite, all capital letters. We're getting up to the 5th episode of that one, where we talk all the shite in wrestling, and the next one coming up is all about shit number 2s in tag teams. So it's tag team partners who went on to not do much with their career.
Tremendous.
Tag team partner blossomed. But you can all go and check that out on all good podcast platforms, and also follow GCP at GCP Podcast 1. Thanks very much, Kieran.
Fabulous. My regular home is Must See Matches, which I co-host with the Pundertaker mean Mark Buckledy. That is, Christ, I can't remember our own socials. At Must See Matches on Twitter, Instagram, Threads, and Blue Sky. I imagine because we dropped this in an episode of Must See Matches, you were listening to Must See Matches. There's a project that Mark started where he basically canvassed Twitter wrestling fans to ask them for a list of up to 25 matches that they think every other wrestling fan needs to see. We collated the data, and we were going to do a podcast about the top 100. Unfortunately, the maths didn't work out like that, so we're doing a podcast about the top 104. The most recent episode was about the Royal Rumble 1992 and had both Eddie and Andy on it. I've done all those socials. I am at Kieran Edits. I'll get better at this as we go on because there's a lot of shit to get in here. This show, we have socials. These two don't know it yet, but we have socials. On Twitter, at FWApod. On Blue Sky, at FWApod.bsky.social. They really need to sort that out. And on Instagram, because I couldn't have FWApod, we are at FWA.pod. If all that was too confusing, go to linktr.ee/FWApod. That'll give you all of that shit and all the ways to subscribe to this show. Thank you very much for listening. We'll be back in a month with episodes 5 through 8 of Frontier Wrestlings. And until then, there's 2 things you can do about it.
FWA.